and welcome to Quilt Moxie, the podcast, where Quilt Moxie meets Craftsy.com, an online community dedicated to providing the best education and resources for crafters. Join me, Ariana, your host, and come along on my video journey where I participate in the Craftsy online classes and community. Meet up with us online at quiltmoxie.com or at your favorite hangout, Craftsy, Ravelry, Facebook, Twitter. Check the credits at the end of the show for more. You can also subscribe to our mailing list to get your next and every episode with show notes delivered directly to your email as soon as the episode is available. It's as simple as dropping your email address and checking Receive Podcast by email. Welcome to episode 12. My name is Ariana, and today we're going to continue with double knitting. Adventures in double knitting with Alistair Post Quinn. I'm going to go back to Fair Isle with the Fair Isle Vest by Mary Jane Mucklestone. I'll begin in the gallery, and I'll wrap it up with a little bit of chit-chat. So let's get started in the gallery. You might have noticed that I've got some more Cathedral window samples in my gallery. I'm very excited to let you guys know that my tool, the Cathedral Window Moxie tool, so far has passed the classroom testing with glowing colors. And I'm doing all that boring paperwork stuff with patents and copyrights and whatever it is in order to bring it on the market. So in the meantime, I just thought I would showcase some Cathedral window quilts that you could create using this Cathedral Window Moxie tool. The tool you can use with any of your existing Cathedral window patterns or books that you may already own. You can do it by hand. You could do it by machine. So while we're chatting about knitting, why don't we take a look at some of the Cathedral Window Moxie quilt patterns that you could create with this new tool, which hopefully, fingers crossed, all that paperwork is going to be completed soon, and we can put it on the market. Yay! So, good news! Double Knitting, Adventures in Double Knitting by Alistair Post Quinn. I have been able to go back with the help of Alistair Post Quinn. Thank you very much. I've been able to go back and continue and complete the class on Craftsy. The last I left off with you, I did complete the hat, but unfortunately it didn't really match the pattern that Alistair had put together, and I was a little bit frustrated, so I posted a question on the Craftsy platform, and Alistair responded. In fact, he responded with 1 page of helpful instructions, which I did follow. And in doing so, I was able to produce the Attyria hat that looks much more like the pattern should. So I'm going to bring out my now two hats I have. So you'll remember that I got stuck with the Attyria hat that looked somewhat like this. And although it's a hat and it's really warm, the pattern was not showing up properly. Or I wasn't able to get the motif properly knitted. Oh. This is the one that I did properly knit. Well, okay, so this is what it's supposed to look like. This is my second hat. Why am I so confused? Because my first hat is made out of the same fabric. So the first one, you can see the motifs were not very much like the final double knitted hat. So let's look at the old one again. So here you'll see the inside, which is my outside on the new one. And I think you'll agree that it looks a lot better now. In any case, I love both hats because they are really warm, and it was a lot of fun or let's say the challenge was a lot of fun to get through. So what I'd like to share with you is how Alistair was able to communicate to me by email, by the Craftsy platform, and how I was able to sort of figure it out. I had to actually go baby steps, even further more baby step-like than what he had recommended. I did take his recommendation. So what he had suggested was to do 2 motifs like he had done in the class and do a sample. And this was my sample, and it still was not turning out properly, and I was trying to follow his recommendations. This was a lot better than the hat I did produce. And then I said to myself that I think I'm going to have to go 1 level lower. And in his recommendations, he also suggests to just do the tip, which is the top part of the hat, which is from here to here, which I did do. But what I did that really helped me out was I did it using stranded knitting. So here is my sample when I did the stranded knitting version of it. And when I did the stranded knitting version of it, so if you're having similar issues like I am, or I was, try stranded knitting, because somehow once I did this and I followed all the other suggestions, he gave me 4 points. Let me just show you my printout. I had to print out his recommendations because it was an entire page. And it begins with, "Hi, Ariana," and it ends with "Good luck" on the bottom. So thank you very much, Alistair. It did work. So here, baby steps. So I did stranded knitting to try to get the motif as per Alistair's instructions of just doing the top piece part of the hat. And this is, after I did this little sample, was when the lights started to connect, or I sort of finally understood what was going on. And then I proceeded to create the new hat, which the motif works on both sides. Yay! The other thing I did understand after I did this double knitting, because it's very similar to stranded knitting. In my case, I had yarn dominance issues. So what I could determine from yarn dominance, on the final hat, the yarn dominated on the pink side. So it's much more prominent. And the background color was my white, because at this hat, I followed exactly the way it looked when Alistair was doing it. His dominant color was the darker one, and the light one was the background color. Anyway, that's how I'm explaining it to myself. Could be, who knows what other reason. So, my Attyria hat is complete. I did make it longer, the brim, so that I could fold it over and have four layers of heat around my ears. Yeah, I suppose I could wear it like this. I don't know if I can do the slouchy look that everybody's sporting. But the hat is really hot, and it's very cuddly. And now I have 2 hats. Yay! Thank you. So then I went on to the next project. Oh, I have to take it off. It's just way too hot. So, okay. So the next project with Alistair was the double knitting with 3 colors. Well, double knitting with 3 colors. I have 3 samples that I did. And I was on a roll because double knitting with 3 colors, I could not figure out how to get the third color, the tension, yarn tension, to work easily. I had figured out how to do yarn tension management for stranded knitting, and I think I left a demo. Anyway, there is a demo on, I think it might have been one of the last episodes, maybe the last Fair Isle episode, episode 2, not sure. But on the YouTube channel, you will find the yarn tension management demo. Okay. And here's another one. I did another 3-color double knitting. And here's a third one. So you'll recognize the pink and the white. Then I added some leftover sock yarn to make up for the third color. No matter what I did, I wasn't able to do easy yarn tension management until I tried, I think it's called Portuguese knitting or Andean knitting. So the third color, what I did was I put it around my neck for yarn tension management. And then it went swimmingly because I was using the stranded color tension management that I had used prior and the knitting that goes around your neck. In a future episode, I'm going to be talking about knitting techniques, I think it's called, by Patty Lyons. And in that class also, she talks about Portuguese knitting. So when I saw that, I said, oh, wow, I'm doing that now. So yes, so if you need to find out what I'm talking about by somebody who knows what they're talking about, check the class on Craftsy by Patty, and you'll know what I did. Maybe I'll do a demo in a future episode. So that's how I did my third color knitting with double knitting. And that was quite easy after I did that. By this time, I also realized something that Mary Jane Mucklestone had taught us, or had recommended in her class on Fair Isle knitting, which is that when you use Fair Isle wool to do your vest, for example, the wool does half the work. So I had used some leftover Fair Isle wool, this one, to do my 3-color double knitting. And lo and behold, I find that the wool and the result, although mine is definitely not anything to, brag about, but I find that the wool itself embeds beautifully. It sort of meshes together really nicely so that the stitch definition, or lack thereof, which there is a lot here, it just comes out better than any of the other wool that I had used. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, stranded knitting, maybe I should be using wool that is recommended for projects that use a lot of stranded knitting. And that's what I learned when I did Fair Isle, or I would say Shetland wool here, Shetland wool here, no Shetland wool here. I find that these two, the net result embeds better. The fabric sort of showcases the colors better, anyway, that's my opinion. It's not formed yet. Take it for what it is. It'll change probably once I learn a little bit more about what I'm doing. And the last project that Alistair took us through was double knitting with 2 different motifs, one on either side. So I used my Shetland wool here, and I'm very happy. So if you look at it from there, you should be seeing the letter Q. I'll say it's for quilting or Quilt Moxie on both sides. And I'm not sure if it's reading left to right or right to left on the camera, but it is the letter Q. when I read it. And this one again was done in the leftover Shetland wool from my Fair Isle vest. Yay! I was able to complete the class with Alistair Postquin. And I do look forward to taking or doing more double knitting in the future now that I've learned what I've learned from the class. And yeah. So thanks again, Alistair, for getting back to me and rescuing me. So I have 2 hats and I was able to complete the class. And yeah. So if you'd like to take this class, just sign up for it. You can click on any of the links in my show notes or on my website. And to let you know that if you do click on any of those links, whenever possible, I try to get affiliate links, which means that with no cost to you, either a podcaster that I refer to or even myself, there will be some small monies that get kicked back to the podcast operation. That's how I'm going to be using them. So if you do sign up for this class or any other class that I have in my show notes or on my website, I might be able to get some money to help fund the podcast with no cost to you. Yay! So I'd like to move on to the other class with Mary Jane Mucklestone. And to do that, I'm going to set up and bring my mannequin here to show you my finished vest. So hold on a second. I'll be right back. And we're back. And I thought maybe now I'd mention that I am wearing the Sky Walker Shawl from the class by Laura Nelkin, Mastering Lace Shawls. So this was the shawl that I had in my gallery area, I believe in episode 11, which was all about lace. So yeah, so I love the shawl. I think it's just a lot of fun to wear, and I look forward to wrapping up those classes as well. So I've set up here with my Fair Isle vest. For those of you who have been down the road to Fair Isle with me on this vest, you'll remember that this is the vest that once I had completed it, it was basically felted. It sort of felted in my washing machine practically right after it was done. So I know there are some of you that can relate to this. I did go on the internet and I found some ways to unfelt it, which I think for the most part, it worked out really well. I do find that the luster of the colors became a little bit more subdued. So if that was the trade-off, I guess that's not too bad. Anyway, the other thing about the vest that I had issues with was the ribbing around the armholes and around the neckline. When I had put that together the first time, even before it felted with this gray wool here on the bottom, it wasn't fitting properly. It was sort of flaring out, and I had no idea what was wrong with it, but there was something not quite right. So lo and behold, after all the classes I've been taking with Craftsy, and I'd like to sort of give a shout out to the Amy Herzog class, Fit to Flatter, I went back to the drawing board on this vest, and what I ended up doing was, in addition to which Mary Jane Mucklestone recommends or suggests is really easy to do, and it was quite easy to do, just remove the existing ribbing that was there, which I did. And I also shortened the shoulder height from sort of under the bust line to the top of the shoulder. I made it shorter because I think part of the gapping on the side here was due to the fact that it wasn't fitting quite as snug as it should have around the shoulder area and the bust line. So that's what I did. I took out maybe maybe 1 to 3 inches, somewhere around there, from the top of the shoulder. And then I grafted that shut. And I believe this time I did do a grafting. Yeah. I grafted it shut using the Kitchener stitch. And there's also a free Craftsy class for that by Anne Hansen, which I think is really comprehensive. So if you need to graft anything together, Kitchener, anything together, whether you're going purl to purl or knit stitch to knit stitch or lace, if you want to graft that together, check out the free Craftsy class by Anne Hansen. So that's how I did the shoulder at the top. And then I redid the neck ribbing. And I really, really like it. It fits really well. The mannequin, let's just say before Christmas, was my size. Okay. So the mannequin looks good wearing the vest. So I'd like to think that that's what it would look like if I wore it. Not quite sure about that right now. Okay. But what I did also realize after I did all my modifications and I was just about to reblock my vest, why not block it directly on the mannequin? Because the Fair Isle vest, after I've taken this class with Amy Herzog, I'm thinking about shaping, etc. And with the Fair Isle pattern, there wasn't a lot of shaping happening around the waist and the hips and the bust, etc. Why not form fit it to my mannequin and see if one can block it right on the mannequin? And lo and behold, that is such a great idea. I'd like to suggest that if you want to try it out for yourself with one of your garments, get out your mannequin and dial up your size, because mine is automatic. You can put in the size of your particulars and block it on there. So why am I convinced? Because right after I finished blocking it, I actually did wear the Fair Isle vest. And everything sort of was snug where it's supposed to be and loose where it's supposed to be. It fit beautifully. So that is what I've learned when I came back to fix up my Fair Isle vest, which I love, from the class Fair Isle Vest by Mary Jane Mucklestone. Give it a try. And I'd like to wrap up today's episode with a little bit of chit-chat. I'd like to wrap up today's episode with just a little bit of chit-chat. Again, I'd like to remind you that we are having a Win a Free Craftsy class contest. Craftsy has generously offered to give the winner a free Craftsy class of their choice. And the criteria for winning the class is to go into Quilt Moxie, the podcast Ravelry group on Ravelry. Join Ravelry if you're not a member already. Join Quilt Moxie, the Ravelry group. And just tell us in the thread for the Craftsy contest what is your favorite Craftsy class, or which one you would like to take if you had a chance to take one. I've been reading through that thread and it's so interesting. There are so many different classes. I think there's one person that wants to do croissant baking. That sounds really, really good. So it doesn't have to be all about knitting. There are sewing classes, there are photography classes, there are fine art classes. There are lots of classes for Craftsy. I don't think Ravelry has any rules about keeping everything to just yarn. So please feel free to join the group and tell us about your favorite Craftsy class. And we'll find out who the winner is soon. I think we're closing in. I think we have 30 more entries before we do our drawing. That's all I have for this time. Join me next time, where I hope to continue with my lace knitting with the classes by Laura Nelkin and Romy Hill. Thank you and see you next time. À la prochaine!